Hi, I'm Scott McKenzie, a partner with Horizon Stewardship. I've been asked by the leadership of the United Methodist Church of Greater New Jersey to resource congregations and leaders on stewardship and generosity. Today we're going to talk about revolutionizing your stewardship. I've been working with churches and stewardship campaigns for more years than I can count. And here's a situation that I will typically find. Debbie's a lay leader. She's excited about stewardship. She's read all the books. She's been to all the conferences and knows that stewardship is about changed lives and the potential to radically change the church. She wants to revitalize the giving in her congregation, and Debbie's even willing to lead the campaign. She's tried to get others involved, but no one's interested. Debbie becomes discouraged. Pastor Joe, he too has read all the books. He's attended all the workshops. His church has a phenomenal ministry that changes people's lives in the community. They're making a difference. But the congregation struggles with finances, has no real understanding of generosity. The lay leadership is not united. They don't have the resources. They don't have a vision. He knows he needs to lead them, but he doesn't know where to begin. Steve gives 10% to his church. He tithes. He donates to local community groups and other organizations on top of that, organizations that are making a difference. He's frustrated that more people aren't coming to his church to worship. He doesn't see lives being changed in the pews. Some of the organizations that Steve supports are making a big difference in the community. He keeps asking himself if he should give more of his money to them. Steve wants to contribute where he can have the most impact on people's lives. So what do? The Debbies of the world continue to be discouraged. Pastors like Joe become disillusioned, and people like Steve wonder, why support a church that's not making a difference? So what's the answer? If the system isn't working, if leaders are disillusioned, if lives aren't being changed, well, there's only one viable option, and that viable option is revolution. Every revolution needs a cause to believe in. And folks, this is the greatest cause of all, uncovering the treasure within for the glory of God. And so we ask, how do we start a revolution in stewardship? Number one, we need to be clear about what stewardship means. You see, stewardship and generosity enables us to become the very people God created us to be. We're created in the image of a loving and generous God. Let me say that again. We are created in the image of a loving and generous God. So the most important stewardship verse is perhaps the one we memorize as children. John 3:16. For God so loved the world, he gave. God's nature is to be generous and loving. We're created to be generous and loving. Now, our churches sometimes get the loving part down, but the generous part can be a little bit more difficult. Stewardship puts structure to our generosity, puts legs on our love. Through stewardship and generosity, we make real God's love to the world. It's easy to get lost in confusing stewardship with financial needs. Stewardship is about each of us believing we're created in the image of a generous God and figuring out what that means for us. Now, we may be tempted to think that stewardship is really about increasing the budget, paying our bills, fixing the building, or paying our shares of ministry. But those needs have really little to do with stewardship, because stewardship is about our personal understanding of what it means to be in relationship with a generous and loving God. Let me tell you a story. It's my favorite story. In 1767, the Burmese army was preparing to attack Bangkok. Now, the monks in Bangkok had a 10-foot ton beautiful gold statue of Buddha. Now, the monks were afraid that the army was going to come in and destroy the Buddha. So before the battle, they painstakingly covered the Buddha in a thick layer of stucco and broken glass to cover it and hide its value. It still looked like the Buddha, but now it was just a clay version. The Burmese army won the battle, ransacked the city, and just as the monks had feared. Now, the clay statue of Buddha remained hidden among the ruins of the city, hidden in plain sight. Over the years, the Buddha was moved from the ruins by various religious leaders, never really given a place of importance, just an old clay Buddha. Important, traditional, but nothing special. Fast forward to 1957 when the Buddha was being moved again. The ropes holding the Buddha broke, and a small piece of stucco was dislodged. And all of a sudden, there was gold underneath, and it became visible. And after careful excavation, the clay is removed, and the full beauty of the golden statue is revealed, a value estimated at $250 million. You see, like the golden Buddha, we were created to be sacred and holy, a treasure created by God to be generous and loving. But throughout our lives, we get stuck or stuccoed. We get all this stuff, it weighs us down, and our true value is covered. We need someone to help us move around, to help us chip away at the mud, to reveal the beauty of creation and all that it has to offer. True stewardship and generosity leads people to look within themselves, beneath the stuff, the stucco, and the mud, to find the value, the worth that connects them with the creation of a generous and loving God. Now, the second step for a stewardship revolution involves leadership. We need leadership that's willing to lead. We need leadership willing to take risks. Here's what I mean. I'd like you to take a look at this video of the Sasquatch Music Festival in 2009.
So let's watch a movement happen, start to finish, in under 3 minutes and dissect some lessons from it. First, of course, you know, a leader needs the guts to stand out and be ridiculed. But what he's doing is so easy to follow. So here's his first follower with a crucial role. He's going to show everyone else how to follow. Now notice that the leader embraces him as an equal. So now it's not about the leader anymore, it's about them, plural. Now there he is calling to his friends. Now if you notice that the first follower is actually an underestimated form of leadership in itself. It takes guts to stand out like that. The first follower is what transforms a lone nut into a leader. And here comes a second follower. Now it's not a lone nut, it's not two nuts, 3 is a crowd, and a crowd is news. So a movement must be public. It's important to show not just the leader, but the followers, because you find that new followers emulate the followers, not the leader. Now here come 2 more people, and immediately after, 3 more people. Now we've got momentum. This is the tipping point. Now we've got a movement. So notice that as more people join in, it's less risky. So those that were sitting on the fence before now have no reason not to. They won't stand out, they won't be ridiculed, but they will be part of the in crowd if they hurry. So over the next minute, you'll see all of those that prefer to stick with the crowd, because eventually they would be ridiculed for not joining in. And that's how you make a movement. But let's recap some lessons from this. So first, if you are the type, like the shirtless dancing guy, that is standing alone, remember the importance of nurturing your first few followers as equals. So it's clearly about the movement, not you. Okay, but we might have missed the real lesson here. The biggest lesson, if you noticed, did you catch it? Is that leadership is over-glorified. That yes, it was the shirtless guy was first, and he'll get all the credit, but it was really the first follower that transformed the lone nut into a leader. So as we're told that we should all be leaders, that would be really ineffective. If you really care about starting a movement, have the courage to follow and show others how to follow. And when you find a lone nut doing something great, have the guts to be the first one to stand up and join in.
So let me recap. What do we need from our leaders? Well, number one, we need a lone nut. We need somebody willing to step out and take a risk. Number two, we need the first follower, someone who's going to provide legitimacy to that nut and turn him or her into a leader. And then finally, we need a second follower, someone who's going to get us to that turning point and turn this into a movement or a revolution. You see, a revolution has to be public. We have to make sure that outsiders see more than just the leader. Everybody needs to see the followers emulate the followers, not the leader. I started talking today about Debbie, our frustrated leader, Pastor Joe, disillusioned, and Steve, doubtful about his giving and his church's ministry. What if they teamed up? What if one of them took the risk to be that lone nut? How about your church? How about you? Is God calling you to be a lone nut, inviting others to join the dance of stewardship and generosity? Is God perhaps calling you to be the first or second follower, to get up and join the dance of stewardship and generosity? God is doing something great in the United Methodist Church of Greater New Jersey, and I want to thank you for the privilege of being a small part of this amazing journey. Let the revolution begin.